What's the most boring movie you've ever seen? Tall Girl 2, it was beyond the point of just being a bad movie. Is that too a typo? 'Cause there's no way that movie got a sequel. I absolutely hated it so much. It did. They tried to address the criticisms of the first movie. But it was somehow even more disingenuous. Someone literally asks her if she thinks being tall is the worst problem someone could have, and she goes on a whole speech about it. "You have no idea the struggles I go through being 6'2" as a girl," she said to her black best friend. I was just thinking the same thing. My brothers were watching the original a couple years back during Christmas break, and I think they gave up halfway through. For some reason, I watched Battlefield Earth in theaters. I woke up at the ending credits. My buddy went with me to see it, and he said every time he woke up, John Travolta was lifting someone up by their neck. Sounds like an Oscar winner to me. That was my first 1,000-plus page book. My dad said he'd take me to see the movie if I read the book. I was like, 11? Almost ruined reading for me, while almost ruining movies too. 8 Yomi watched March of the Penguins, not knowing it was a doc. I was young too when it came out. When the leopard seal kills the penguin, I ran out crying. I got really high on mushrooms in college on some concentrated mushroom shit that was way stronger than I thought it was going to be. Ended up watching March of the Penguins, and it was fascinating. In the morning when I mentioned it, I was informed that we had actually watched Happy Feet, and I thought it was real. I'm still not sure if they were messing with me or we'd actually watched Happy Feet. Transformers: The Last Knight? I fell asleep during one of the action scenes. It's amazing how boring and generic they could make giant robots fighting. I wouldn't have thought it was possible until I saw it with my own drooping eyes. And then there was the first Pacific Rim, or even Evangelion. The difference in cinematography is striking. The wife and I heard about a theater where you can order appetizers, entrees and liquor from your seat. This intrigued us, but the theater was over an hour away, and nothing was out that was interesting to us. I think a non-Batman DC movie, and probably a Melissa McCarthy movie were out at the time, so we decided on Pacific Rim and figured we'd chalk it up to having dinner and a bad movie. We went in blind, and we both were pleasantly surprised. The movie was actually good. If I commit to seeing a movie in a theater, I'm in it till the credits scroll. Even if the movie is meh, I enjoy the experience of being out with a friend and seeing a film on the big screen that others spent portions of their own lives to put together. I have never been so close to walking out of a film than I was watching Lady in the Water. My ass actually raised out of the seat and hovered for a second before I gritted my teeth and swore that the movie wasn't going to beat me. It tried, valiantly and desperately at every turn. It tried to kill me with absolute boredom and frustration. In the end I made it, but to this day it's been the only one to come that close to victory. Blimey. From the Wikipedia page, the film was critically panned, with criticism revolving around the self-indulgence with which Shyamalan cast himself in the film, the lack of consistency, and the film's characterization. The film was also a financial failure, grossing $72 million against a $70 million production budget. At the 27th Golden Raspberry Awards, Lady in the Water received 4 nominations for Worst Picture and Worst Screenplay, and won 2 for Worst Director and Worst Supporting Actor for Shyamalan. Of course it was a Shyamalan movie. How is every movie of his a total coin flip, if it's great or horrid? It was so boring I can't remember the title. This is true. There are 2 kinds of bad movies. There are those bad movies that are so atrocious that it scars you for life and even gives you horrifying nightmares about those movies getting sequels and spin-offs. Then are those bad movies that are so substandard that your brain doesn't even register the act of watching it. You forgot the third type of bad movie, the sort of movie that is so bad it drops out the bottom of the scale and loops around into sheer entertainment again. I went to see it in the theater with 2 friends, but it was a largely empty theater. The movie was terrible, and we started discussing how bad it was. The people in front of us heard, and instead of getting annoyed with our talking, they agreed. We started talking to them, and then spent the rest of the movie talking with our new friends until the credits rolled. I have no idea what the movie was. Edit: I've been on Reddit for years, and this comment has probably as many likes as I've gotten in all those years combined. For a movie I don't remember. Thanks for the awards, I've never got any before. That's the thing, if it was so boring, There's no way you would remember the title. Most of those Hallmark romance movies, 90% happen at Christmas, have near identical plots, overlapping cast, some name like Christmas Town, or A Christmas Kiss. The dialogue is always bland, and makes me hate every character the more I listen, and the characters are usually one-dimensional. The fact that I can't name a single one of the movies, and yet you could Google my criteria, and probably find over 100 similar movies should speak volumes to how bland the formula is. I mean, credit where credit is due, they found a formula that appeals to aging housewives, but that just ain't me. A hard-charging female, doctor, lawyer, scientist, living in Manhattan, Chicago, Los Angeles, is engaged to an alpha male, entrepreneur, doctor, politician, when she decides to go to her hometown, just before Christmas. While there, her family has a medical emergency, imminent business failure, family crisis, and she meets a local teacher, bush pilot, carpenter, who is a square-jawed hunk with a beard, and a moron-top haircut who saves the day, and teaches her the true meaning of Christmas. And there's a dog. Don't forget the part where he's a single dad to a 6 to 10-year-old kid that is way too wise for their age. 9 times out of 10 the main character's on her way to ask out the dude, catches him in a compromising position with his ex, which is a total misunderstanding, then storms off to head back to the big city without giving him a chance to explain. Then here comes this sage of a kid, who can barely wipe their own ass, but somehow imparts an essential life lesson on the main character, which prevents her from leaving, and convinces her to give the guy another chance. The Happening, a movie where people ran away from nothing for 2 hours. I was so looking forward to this movie, and to call it a letdown would be a vast understatement. Someone called me after it ended, and the tone was immediately sour, prompting the explanation, "I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at M. Night Shyamalan." This movie was beautiful like perfume ads. Nice costumes, intense stares, beautiful places. Too bad the dialogues and scenario are also like perfume ads. It was such a nothing of a movie. I already didn't want to be there, but it wasn't even so bad it was as good. It was just blah. I was in university when the movie came out. A group of us went to see it, expecting a so bad it's good trash flick. Nope. This movie takes itself so seriously, it's just so dull and boring. Jupiter Ascending with Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum, my wife dragged me to the shit in theaters. Worst $50 I ever spent. Slept through the entire thing. Not a great movie, but I wouldn't call it boring, at least visually. Cringy, cliched, overacted, Eddie Redmayne looking at you, but not really boring. I fully believe that every actor in that movie is there because of some wide-ranging blackmail scheme. Except for James Corden. He's probably behind the scheme tbh. I will never forget what Ricky Gervais said about him at the Golden Globes. The world got to see James Corden as a fat pussy. He was also in the movie Cats. Downsizing. Just an absolutely horrible movie. Downsizing is probably the most disappointing, upset I've ever been with a movie. It was marketed as a quirky comedy about a guy who shrinks, and I was very excited to see it. It turned out to be horrible, and not a comedy at all, and having very little to do with Matt Damon shrinking. Seriously. Relative to expectations, this is among the worst movies I've ever seen. The entire premise of the movie was completely irrelevant to the story. If you just cut out the first 20 minutes, and shrank no one, it would have changed nothing. Jurassic World Dominion. It was the first time I fell asleep in the theater. I watched it on an airplane recently. Laughed my ass off when I saw Chris Pratt riding a horse to lasso a dinosaur. I don't remember anything else about it.